All right, Ethan, what's up, man?
How's it going, Paul?
Hey, could not be going any better, bro. Yeah, I see you're repping the Cleveland Browns polo. Last
Oh
year, that
yeah.
was a lot more frowned upon. Now it's more accepted. So, well, hey, dude, good to have you on with us. I want to spend a couple quick minutes in going over the topic, like what you think isn't, and what you think is, because a lot of times, as we get started in this business, you think that you need to know all this information, and then when you get out there into the field, you're like, man, all that time, energy, emotion that I spent trying to get closer to perfection, trying to know more until I started to do, you realize that it was to no avail. And I love the whole concept that you don't really know until you actually do. To know and not to do is not to know. And it's such a thing that we see. Like, Ethan, you just hit senior sales manager this last month, right?
Correct. Yep.
So congratulations again. FFL North Coast is on the map and on the way to VP. In fact, if you guys are watching this video in the month of like September 2019, Ethan would already be VP is my prophecy. So, but you got started in the business and you did it the right way. If you can kind of touch upon like how you got started and with Family First Life, what did that first 30 days look like for you?
Yeah. So when I first started, I'll be honest, I had no idea what I was doing, how I was doing it, anything like that. I was plugging in as far as getting on the conference calls, stuff like that. But I just took in as much as I could from that. Didn't really have any training outside of that. I just got my license, so it's not like I was, working, doing this elsewhere or anything like that. My first, I just got on the phone. So what I did was I bought $3 mortgage protection leads, about 100 of them. So I spent $300. It actually, I tell people all the time, it literally took my bank account negative 290 some dollars. Like I think I had 10 bucks in there
Right.
when I literally started doing it. Luckily they took PayPal and it was linked to my bank account rather than my card. So I was able to do that. But I went out there and I knew that just dialing these pieces of paper somehow resulted in people making money. And really that's all that I knew. So that's exactly what I did. I just started calling them. My first 10 appointments, my first 10 sits, I went 0 for 10. I didn't sell a single one of them. And Paul, it was kind of funny you even mentioning it earlier, but I mean, I literally, I was trying to get people 82-year-old, the cashback option, return of premium with America, taking applications for it. I mean, I had no idea what I was doing at all. I didn't know the underwriting guidelines. I didn't know anything at all. I went 0 for 10 and it sucked. But I always tell everybody, man, those first 10 appointments for those are the most important appointments I guess I've ever ran, really, because of what I was able to learn and take in just from doing that. I was quoting the wrong things. I was doing this and I was doing everything wrong. But believe me, the following appointments that I had, that's what made me, I was able to issue pay over 15 grand. My first month, even though my first week I was 0 for 10, I was still able to round out the month with 15 grand, no experience, because I just went out there and I fell right on my face. And I tell agents to do that all the time. Don't be afraid to go out there and fail, because as long as you're failing forward, which you are naturally by learning, by making those mistakes, you're going to get back up and you're going to recover from it and learn from it. That's exactly what I did on accident. I mean, I didn't plan it that way. I thought my first 10 appointments, don't get me wrong, after 10 appointments like that, I was like, man, this might be harder than it looks. But by the end of the month, I realized it's a lot easier than it even looks, even though I had that result early. So that's exactly what
Well, I mean, it's kind of like two big points I want to point to in that. The first thing, Ethan, is when you got started, you went all in. Now, somebody could argue and say, well, who went all in, man? He had 10 bucks in his account. That ain't all in. No, that's all in. Dude, you went negative to get this thing going. And I think a lot of times when you take those action steps to go all in, and that might mean something different from each person, but you know what it means for you. You subconsciously say hey, I'm going to make this thing work. There's no way it's not going to work. It's a whole cliche story where the people hop off the boats and the ships and the guy, the captain sets them on fire. He says, you see that back there burning? And they're like, yeah. He's like, hey, well, we're either going to die here on this island or we're going to win victoriously and get off. There's only two ways out of here, right? There's no retreat. We got nothing to retreat to. See, I think that's a lot of that burning desire that when somebody's at this precipice of getting started, this crossroads of, man, I don't really know if I can go out and kill this thing. When they're in that, I don't really know if I can go out there and do this thing, I kind of believe I can, but I'm not positive. In that state of mind, Ethan, it kills people. You know what I mean? Like then they start making the wrong choices halfway in. I like that old quote that says, be quick to make a decision and then make the decision right. So many people are trying to make the right decision. Like, well, I need to know this because in my mind, then I'll be able to go out and feel confident client. No, what you think is, it isn't. That's not the way it's gonna play out. So I love that, man. You burned the ship, so to speak. Said, hey, this thing's it's gonna work out. You put your job, you put what you had back into the leads that you had, and then the second thing is the first conversation we had. It was you called me up, and I think I called you. I gave you a call because I heard hey, Ethan's got a bunch of appointments, and I said, who's Ethan? They're like, Ethan's a guy that's got a bunch of appointments. I said, fair enough. I'll give him a call. And so I give you a call, and I'm like, hey man, what do you got going on? Like, I'm running the appointments, and I think I asked you like, well, what product you're gonna write, and what was your answer?
I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how to quote it. I don't know what to write. I was like, you got applications? He's like, nah, I'm just gonna show up, and I'm like, I like this guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when we talk about this, I guarantee there's somebody sitting in their chair like that's brand new, they're starting to sweat and get anxiety thinking about living in living in that state. Like, oh my God, I couldn't imagine like going to a client's house, not knowing what to do. But that forced you to learn what you needed to learn because you'd already gone in and started to make a mess. And then I was like, okay, this product, this is how you quote it. Call me with the client. And so those 10 appointments, they had to happen for you to write 15,000. So that's what people don't realize. Like, oh man, he had 10 no-shows. What if he would have stepped back? No. If you didn't have those 10 no-shows, you wouldn't have had the 15,000 in issue paid business, right? You would have spent 30, 45 days trying to get closer to perfection, learning the products and all this stuff. And then when you went out there and took action, you might have had 8 no-sales instead of 10. You might have got a little bit better, but usually it's not even that much, better. But you would have missed out on 15,000 in income in that first month. So you only get better by massive action. Hey, talk about real quick what Derek Fields is doing, how he's getting started.
Yeah, so Derek's doing the same exact thing that I did when I got started. It reminds me a ton of me, and he just came out of his first month here with us, 21 years old, issue paid just about 18,000 last month in the month of May. Again, first month ever. Got his license and just jumped right on it. He was working full time, doing concrete work, and he was dialing when he got home from work. He would work all day until the sun goes down, get home and dial for an hour or two at home. And then he ran a full day Saturday. His first day in the field, he had 6+ appointments. And that's one thing I don't see a lot of agents do. I'll talk about it a million times, like, hey, you're just going to get disheartened if you go run 1 or 2, like, because they might not be there. You might get a no-show. Let's remember, you're new at this or new to the program. Like, just understand that. He did the right thing. He booked a day full. It was only 1 day full, but he had, I want to say, 7 appointments, I think is the exact number that he had. And with no experience at all, he went out there and wrote 5,000 AP. He was constantly calling me, doing a lot of the right things in the home, a lot of things that I didn't do, that I didn't do to have the success even with my first 10 appointments. He was doing a lot of those things. So he went out there, wrote 5K on that first weekend. He went to work on Monday, put in his 2-week notice, and then on Tuesday decided not to go to work. So he quit his job right there and really jumped into it full time. And that was like the first week of May when all this really happened. So then from there, dude, he took off. He's honestly, the things that he's doing, the most right way, I guess I would put it, is the way that he's investing into leads. And he's doing it with all like 50 cent, 25 cent leads, honestly, stuff that like I look at and I'm like, I don't want to dial that. He's loving those things. I mean, dude, he's picking them up. The other day, he bought 759 leads for $720 on the CRM. And he was in here dialing them. He didn't even get through 60 of them. He already had 10 appointments. I do, like, he's going to quadruple his money on the first 50 leads, let alone the fact that he still has 700 more to go. And he just continues to do that constantly. He's reinvesting. He's really grasping the important things. A lot of new agents still focus on, I need to know the products, or I need to know this or that. You know, Derek's been here for a month. He has more product knowledge than some agents I work with that have been here for 6 months, just because he's actually writing the product. Like, you learn it that way. You don't learn it. You don't learn it by reading a book. You know, I mean, it'll take you forever to do it that way. And that's exactly what happened with me. Again, that 0 for 10 that I did. You know, if I didn't, I mean, I learned the products by giving them to the wrong people. Like that. That's how I learned doing it. And Derek's, you know, Derek's learned them quickly that way. He doesn't really have any questions about that anymore. It's been a month, you know. So if you're 3 months into this and you're still wondering about this product or how it does this or that, I mean, if you're running enough appointments, you're gonna learn it. And that's what he's doing, man. He's buying leads. He's investing into himself as soon as he gets paid every single time. He had counties locked out after being hired, like from the day that we sent contracts in, the day that he locked out leads was 6 days. He locked out, I want to say, 4 counties in the first 6 days that he was here, because he had early success. But he didn't have early success because he's good at this, or he's just a pro at selling life insurance. I mean, like, again, this is his first week. He just went out there and ran more appointments than, you know, a lot of agents do, and that's exactly what he's doing.
I love it. It's like some people say, hey, I believe I can do this thing, and then their action shows the complete opposite. And he never, as far as I remember, was a guy that was like, I can kill this thing. I'm going to crush this thing. He was kind of like quiet and just like, you know, to himself. And then all of a sudden his actions just started to show like, no, this guy, he really believes that he's going to, you know, he can make this thing work. And by the way, why would you not? Why would you not? I mean, you look at the leaderboard, how many people are issued paying $20,000 a month? How many people hit senior sales manager this month? Ethan hit it. I mean, we had a whole, I think, 7 different organizations that hit over 100,000. And that's really reflective of how many producers in these groups that are going out and being successful. And so why would you not expect that? Well, Ethan, last question I got, and we'll wrap this thing up. Okay, so you work with quite a few agents. Your organization is expanding. So you got, you know, an agent like yourself and like Derek that really, you know, convinces himself that, hey, this is the right path. I need to go out there and take action and get course correction, and then I'll be able to glean the most from that. And then you've also got the other person, though, that's like, you know, kind of, you know, they're getting ready to get ready. You know what I mean? You ever call somebody and you're like, what's going on, man? I'm getting ready to leave. It's like, what does that even mean? Get ready. But like those kind of people, what's that path that they're usually on? How much longer does it take? Have you ever seen somebody that got ready to get ready after, like, you know, 3 months, come out of the gate and start crushing it? I mean, what does that path usually look like?
It's so rare, honestly, to see them take that path and eventually come out of the gate. I mean, and it's almost like you can't really blame them, because like if you're doing this for 4 months, but you're doing a lot of things the wrong way, not the way that like somebody like Derek, like we just said, took action and just went and did it. It's like hard to blame them. Like, you go 4 months without making much money, like, yeah, it's to blame for your activity and this and that, but it's like, can you blame them for not wanting to do this anymore or quit? Like that's why sometimes you'll see people fail at this. But when you take that immediate action, it's like there's no wrongdoing with it. So yeah, I mean, I've seen quite a few agents. I can honestly name one of them who's had success that I've worked with personally, that like got a really slow start and just kind of like slowly started to dive into it, slowly decided to buy leads. I mean, I'm trying to think of how many agents we've probably hired altogether over the last 2 years since we really started taking it seriously, or a year and a half since we started taking it seriously. And I mean, think about how many people have taken that slow approach, and to have one that actually came out of it like that. And then you think of agents like Brendan, who, again, same thing Derek did, bought leads, invested in himself day one, and just went out there and did it. Didn't ask many questions. He talks about all the time watching the dial video that you did. It was like live dialing, and how that helped him on the phones. But like, he wasn't doing that in between dial time. Like, he was doing that before he goes to bed. It's 11 at night. He's watching it in bed, you know, stuff like he's doing it at the right times, doing, you know, the right activity at the right times. And that's the same kind of stuff that Derek's doing. He's listening to the in-home videos on the way to the in-home. Like, he's not doing that while he should be dialing this and that. And like I said, man, out of all the people that we've went through, I've only seen one kind of get that slow start and end up having some success. But dude, it's those people that really just dive into it, indulge themselves into it, and don't slow down their activity. Like activity is one, and then indulging yourself in everything else comes second. And that's the way that they take that approach. And those are the people that really seem to do exactly what Derek's doing, exactly what Brendan's doing, or did a year ago, and exactly what I did when I first got started. So that's what I see. And I'm sure you see something similar.
Absolutely. And I think that's well put. So if you're brand new listening to this video, which I think is a great video for you to listen to, procrastination, it's the insurance policy against success, right? Like the longer you take to do something, the less likely you are to ever do it. And that's just the way it is, And so as you get started, that whole you guys have heard the first impression is a big deal. Well, this is kind of like as you get going and you join Family First Life, what is your first impression to yourself? Are you saying like, I'm all in, I'm committed, and then creating some kind of buy-in to force yourself to do the right thing? You don't want to be that person. And hey, I've been that person. It's like, man, I want to be in better shape January 1st. And then like come March, I gave up on it. You know what I mean? You want to be the person that says it, but then they get a personal trainer, and that personal trainer, now you're paying them. They're there. You've got the rule of consistency. You want to be consistent with what you said you're going to do. You've got buy-in. You've put money into it. That person's so much more likely to be successful with physical fitness. And it's the same thing with our business. Go take massive action. Don't just live in this good intent. Like I intend to make this thing work. Show yourself a good first impression by investing in leads, taking massive action, and making a mess out of it. I remember this story of these two groups, and did a study on it, and they had one group, Ethan, making clay pots, right? So they're putting them, and both of them were going to make clay pots. They had a model of how perfect the clay pot had to look, like how good, how well made it needed to be. And so they had this one focus group. They read all these manuals, how to do it. They spoke about it. They talked about it, differentiated about it for days upon days until they took the first step to start making them. And so they started making those pots, right? And I think it was after 100 pots, they had made 50 of them that actually looked the way they should look, right? So they made 50 of them good. And so, but in the beginning, the first couple pots, they were made a little bit better. Then you had this other group, they took massive action. So they ended up making 225 pots, another 225, 90 of them were right. So they ended up making significantly more pots, but they made more right because they took massive action. And the study went to prove that the only way to get better is by taking action and making course correction. That in fact, I said it wrong. The second group, they actually made more pots better in a better ratio. It was 130 pots to 180 that were made. So it's such a big discrepancy. And we saw the same thing when we went to John Maxwell. We spent $14,000 on an event. And one of the biggest lessons, Ethan, that they taught us, they had us put into these groups of, I think it was 8 groups of 5. And our job was to take off these tires on this race car as a pit crew, right? And then they would gauge cars at a time. And so they went through the whole thing. And the first time we all got together and we kind of picked what our, who we were going to be. I was going to be the guy that took the tire off. The guy was taking the lug nuts off. So we spoke about it and all that. And we had 10, 15 minutes to talk about it. And then we went out and took action, and we all felt miserable because what we thought wasn't. And we didn't know until we actually got in it. And it took us 24 seconds. It was so pathetic, the guy was laughing at us because it was at Hendricks Motorsports in North Carolina. And so the next time that we got back, we spent only 3 minutes, but it was making course corrections and adjustments. And in that time, when we went back out, we went from 22 seconds down to 14 seconds. And it was the whole training lesson was that's how life is. The only way you get good is by taking action and then stepping back, correcting, and then moving forward. Because all that time, we could spend another hour talking about what to do. We still would have only gotten to 20 seconds. But once we took action and then made adjustments, we got 100-fold better. So I hope this makes sense, guys. Ethan, thanks for joining us, man. Thank you for joining me. And great video. And we'll talk to you guys soon. See ya.
See you guys.